Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those against will say no. No. I think the ayes have it.
The salaries of more than 6 million workers are set to rise after the historic minimum wage bill is passed. An emotional farewell for the little victim of yesterday's hijacking in Durban. Hundreds rally to bid Saidia Sukraj goodbye. This is eNews at 8. I'm Sally Burdett. Good evening. To our top story now. The National Assembly this afternoon passed the landmark minimum wage bill. The bill now has to pass through the National Council of Provinces before the President can sign it into law. Once implemented, the 20 Rand hourly minimum will see around 6.4 million workers' salaries increase.
The results of the vote are as follows. Yes, 202. No, 17. Abstain, 1. The question is accordingly agreed to, and the Secretary will read the bill a second time.
National Minimum Wage Bill.
Well, opposition parties have criticised the minimum wage, but for different reasons. The EFF says 20 Rand an hour amounts to a pittance every month.
The EFF does not oppose the legislation of national minimum wage, but we reject the 3,500 proposal with the contempt it deserves.
The Democratic Alliance says the national minimum wage of 20 Rand an hour will hurt the economy.
We are already hearing from businesses who have stopped recruiting in order to assess the outcome of the implementation of the national minimum wage. Already we are experiencing the disaster with over 52% unemployment in our youth category. Some of our colleagues in this House will shout about more sustainable wage and hundreds of rands per hour. This fanciful thinking will lead to one thing only, and that is an actual minimum wage of 0 Rand per hour. We are living in a world of flexible labour markets, and goods are flowing more freely in jurisdictions who are able to produce at cheaper rates. The higher minimum wage, the more influx of goods, and the more that the local producers will turn into mechanisation, computerisation.
The IFP says the national minimum wage will scare away entrepreneurs.
Support a national minimum wage which is standardized across industries. It is unsustainable and, quite frankly, unaffordable. Businesses are going to close up shops. Small businesses will suffer the most.
But Labour Minister Mildred Oliphant says businesses can apply for an exemption from the national minimum wage.
It is significant that South Africa will join several countries around the world that have implemented the national minimum wage as an instrument of economic and social development. It must be said, however, that setting the level was an extremely delicate balancing act. In order to demonstrate flexibility, provisions for businesses that may be unable to afford the national minimum wage to apply for exemption are included.
In other news now, and hundreds of people attended the funeral today of 9-year-old Chatsworth girl Saidia Sukraj. She was killed during a hijacking yesterday. Her death has highlighted just how vulnerable our children are. Reporter Desan Thathia attended the emotional goodbye.
Saidia Sukraj was happiest in church, surrounded by her loved ones. This time, though, they're here to bid the 9-year-old goodbye. She was kidnapped and later killed during a hijacking at her relative's home in Chatsworth. The impact of her death on this community can be seen in the number of people attending her funeral. Her family is shattered by the loss of their young child. And her friends and teachers say Saidia made an impression on everyone she met.
They've lost this leader, this bubbly soul who would hug every single teacher. Most importantly, she impacted on all people that she met in various ways. And if we can take anything away from this, like Rajesh mentioned just now, if it took her to unite the community of Chatsworth. She's done her purpose and she's back with her maker.
The provincial government has assured mourners Sadia's death would not be in vain and her killers would be dealt with. After a moving service, her loved ones bid her farewell at the Chatsworth Cemetery.
We will make our presence known, but we mustn't start a war that we cannot end. And I'm appealing to all of us to be cool-headed, warm-hearted, and to show a spirit of embracement to all of the communities surrounding our areas.
One of the men arrested in connection with the hijacking is expected to appear in court on Wednesday. Desan Thathia, Chatsworth in Durban.
To the Cape Town High Court now, and today Courtney Peters' mother took the stand and responded to her daughter's killer. Now yesterday, Mortimer Saunders pleaded guilty to killing 3-year-old Courtney in May last year. Leanne Jansen has the story.
Juanita Peters says she forgives Mortimer Saunders but cannot forget what he's done. She's told the court that she takes full responsibility and admits guilt for leaving her children unattended. She's also told the court that she did not think Saunders was capable of such an act because he seemed like a decent man who loved children, especially Courtney. Peters has also spoken of their estranged relationship because she says Saunders had often caused trouble between her and her boyfriend. The state's second witness, Marsha Wen, has taken the stand. She's Courtney's cousin and was home at the time of the incident. Her testimony continues on Wednesday. Leanne Jansen at the Western Cape High Court.
The ANC's top brass is still deciding who the next Northwest Premier will be. Speaking at a briefing today following a 3-day meeting of the party's National Executive Committee, Secretary General Ace Magashule said they need more time to resolve the Northwest's problems. Supra Mahumapelo stepped down as Premier of the province last week following weeks of protests and accusations of corruption.
We felt that we need more time to further engage because you don't rush to come with solutions. And the PEC did give us, as it's a resolution of conference, the PEC is supposed to give us 3 names. So we did not adequately engage on that item because of time.
Still ahead on eNews at 8, we go to Tshwane, which these days is frequently in the dark. Now small businesses are starting to suffer. To Parliament now. Deputy President David Mabuza was answering questions in the National Assembly this afternoon. Speaking on land ownership, he made it clear that traditional leaders do not own the land. He said they are merely the custodians.
In terms of customs, it is the people who own the land. Traditional leaders are only custodians of the people's land. Because of these perceptions and at times conflicting views on who has the right of ownership on such land between traditional leaders and ordinary people, government then is seeking to address this issue in a manner that gives certainty and removes any possibility of unwarranted conflict and distortions.
Staying with land, 145 land invasion protests in 5 months in Cape Town. Mayor Patricia de Lille today confirmed that land grabs have spiked since the beginning of this year, but she's warned the city will not tolerate invasions. Artinasi has the details.
The scenes unfolding in Cape Town communities in the last few weeks, with one common goal: land. Cape Town Mayor Patricia de Lille is calling for further talks. De Lille says housing processes need to be followed.
People must understand that as the city we work from a waiting list. And there are about 300,000 people waiting for a housing opportunity. And we also can't allow people to jump the queue. So once people invade the land illegally, the next demand is the city must now bring water, sanitation, electricity and services. We cannot bring any services to land that was invaded, and especially if the land is privately owned.
She says the root cause of land invasions must be investigated.
We've not seen this kind of protest in my term as the mayor, and I'm there for 7 years now. So this is the first time that we have to deal with so many protests, land invasions at the same time. And so we are stretching our resources to the limit. Tomorrow we are going to adopt, hopefully, our budget for the next financial year. So communities get turned. This year in the financial, we accommodate certain communities for housing opportunities. The next year is the turn of somebody else.
Meanwhile, the City of Cape Town has called for a special task team to deal with the spike in protest action. Artie Narsi, Cape Town.
Well, the city of Tshwane says it has on average 50 power outages a month, cable theft, not enough money to repair failing infrastructure, and sometimes even sabotage are believed to be the main reasons why the capital is so often in the dark these days. The city says it needs 3 years and over 2 billion rand to stabilise its power supply. But in the meantime, the outages are having a severe impact on small businesses in Tshwane, Lorenzo Temba reports.
Candles are the only way Alexandra Mwabe has been able to keep his small cafe operating. The shopkeeper says 5 days of darkness have made running a business all but impossible.
Because customers, they are complaining, they want to buy drinks, the drinks is very hot, they want to buy some meat. Security also, people just enter, you can't see them, those who are there. At least if the camera, they are working. So otherwise, in all areas, we are being affected.
Customers usually look forward to warm meals prepared daily, but instead they're confronted with empty shelves while the smell of spoiled meat lingers in the air.
Saturday is we lost 6,000, 6.5, but Sunday we lost more than 7,000 because we didn't get any customer.
Suburbs and townships have not been spared. The city says it receives over 15,000 power outage reports every month. 30% are a result of stolen cables.
The new budget, which is implemented from the 1st of July, has significant differences in terms of how it's approaching utility services in particular. More money, more capital money, more maintenance money, more resources available to us, both to fix what we've got as well as to expand the systems. We know that the city is under attack. There's an election coming up. And there are many, many people who don't want the administration to succeed.
With no end in sight, officials are now compensating residents who've suffered monetary losses due to the blackouts.
If there's I'm using an analogy, if there's a 2-hour outage and someone suddenly claims for 15,000 rands worth of frozen meat that went off, we're going to be very skeptical about it.
Every effort is being made to restore power, and it's no easy task. In the past 2 months, 6 municipal workers tasked with keeping the lights on were nabbed for stealing cables. Lorenzo Temba, Pretoria.
Banking news, and troubled VBS Mutual Bank is one of 2 banks that's been fined by the Reserve Bank for breaking financial laws and regulations. The details are contained in the latest Bank Supervision Annual Report. Now, VBS and China Construction Bank failed to identify and verify customer details. The Reserve Bank placed VBS under curatorship in March when it could no longer repay deposits to clients. The bank made headlines after it loaned millions of rands to then President Jacob Zuma to pay back the money for his residence at Nkandla. China Construction Bank Corporation has been slapped with the bulk of the 77 million rand in fines. But good news for African Bank. The Reserve Bank says despite its troubled past, it's now performing better. The bank saw a 42% increase in operating profit for the 6 months ending in March. African Bank saw a drop in its customer base in the last financial year, With competition on the rise, the bank is now focusing on digitising and modernising its branch network. Let's take a quick look at news from further afield now. In the Middle East, where Palestinian militants have launched several dozen mortar bombs and rockets across the border into Israel. Health officials say 3 Israelis were wounded by shrapnel. The Israeli military says its Iron Dome rocket interceptor shot down most of the 25 projectiles fired from the Gaza Strip. News agency Reuters says it's the heaviest barrage against Israel since the end of the 2014 Gaza war. In Belgium, police are treating a shootout at the Liège police station as a terrorist attack. 2 officers and a passerby were killed after a 36-year-old Belgian man grabbed a gun from them. Police shot and killed the suspect in a subsequent gunfight. Authorities say the suspect was released from prison just yesterday. Let's recap your top story this evening.
Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those against will say no. No. I think the ayes have it.
The salaries of more than 6 million workers are set to rise after the historic minimum wage bill is passed in the National Assembly today. We've got your weather news next, and we've had some rather unseasonal rain up here in Gauteng today. More on that in just a moment. And then money from the soil. One woman in Alexandra is fighting unemployment with a herb garden.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Center. On the latest satellite picture, we are seeing this mass of cloud associated with a cold front that is going to maintain rain and thunderstorms tonight over the eastern areas. It will be mostly fine for the rest of the country, but out in the Atlantic Ocean, we are watching this pretty big cold front which is set to hit the western areas as we go through Wednesday. Now, we're going to get into Wednesday with rain showers over parts of KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and Limpopo, and it's going to be mostly fine but freezing overnight for much of the interior. Then on Wednesday, mostly sunny skies are forecast across much of the interior. Showers will persist over parts of eastern South Africa, and we are going to see this cold front introducing rainy weather in the early afternoon hours across the southwestern areas of the Western Cape. Now, we are going to see mostly sunny skies once again across much of the Northern Cape on Wednesday. It's going to be chilly for Sutherland, peaking at 14 degrees and having started at -2 in the morning. Rain showers are forecast in the afternoon along the west coast of the Western Cape. It's going to be partly cloudy and dry for the rest of the province. Partly cloudy skies are also forecast for the western areas of the Eastern Cape, mostly sunny for the eastern sections, with temperatures lying in the upper teens and lower 20s for much of the province. We are going to see a few rain showers over eastern KwaZulu-Natal, partly cloudy and dry for the western sections. A high of 23 is forecast for Durban. Isolated rain and thunderstorms are possible for the northern and eastern areas of Mpumalanga, when Mbombela warms to 24 degrees in the afternoon. We are also going to see passing thunderstorms over parts of the Limpopo province. On the other hand, mostly sunny skies are forecast across the northwest, where it's going to be warm in the afternoon but pretty chilly in the morning, -1 for the minimum around Vryburg. A frosty night is forecast across much of the Free State, freezing in the morning around Forest Smith and Bethlehem, and it's going to be mild in the afternoon with cloud-free skies. Sunny weather continues in Gauteng, Johannesburg and Soweto, peaking at 22 degrees. On Thursday, we are going to stay with cloud and rainy weather for Cape Town. Thunderstorms are forecast over the eastern areas. Rainy weather continues across western South Africa on Friday, and it's going to be sunny for the eastern sections.
And finally, an inspiring story from Alexandra Township. One woman's turned to urban farming to help battle unemployment. 56-year-old Violet Mabasa grows 40 different herbs, including 5 different types of mint, and she can't keep up with the demand.
4 years ago, Violet Mabaso and 5 other women formed the Molobanyane Cooperative to grow their own produce as part of a city initiative. They were allocated space at an old dump site where they've planted various herbs and vegetables. Mabaso has never owned land and says the space in which she grows her vegetables is no longer enough.
The place is no longer okay now, it's just too small.
too much small. We have the customers who want our product as we are growing the organic herbs and vegetables, and we can't deliver.
Mabaso is passionate about teaching young people about farming fresh organic produce. Her initiative has inspired others to start their own projects. The cooperative sells its produce like chili pastes and chutneys to restaurants, stores and offices.
Well, let's recap your top story this evening. The salaries of more than 6 million workers are set to rise after the historic minimum wage bill is passed in the National Assembly. And that's a wrap of your news at 8. Take care and good night.